If you have to defend yourself, you have to, as quickly as possible, shift your focus from, oh my God, what's going to happen to me, to what am I going to do to them? And you have to shift their focus from trying to hurt you to trying to protect themselves. Because so long as they're focused on hurting you, what are you a risk for? Getting hurt, right? Nobody's made out of magic. Everybody breaks, bleeds, and dies, and everybody can lose. So if they're focused on hurting you, you are at risk for getting hurt. Doesn't matter if you're a Navy SEAL with 10 years of combat experience and they're a crackhead, they can still kill you. But if they're focused on protecting themselves, what are they not trying to do to you? They're not trying to hurt you. One of the most reliable, decisive ways that we can cause that rapid shift in focus, other than completely turning off the brain, is to attack the eyes. There's something very instinctive about protecting the eyes, where people stop trying to hurt you and start trying to protect their eyes. And this is true even where weapons are involved, because you can be shooting people or stabbing people in ways that are fatal. They may eventually succumb from their injuries, but it doesn't necessarily stop them quick enough to stop them from hurting you. But again, if you attack the eyes aggressively, people stop trying to hurt you and they start trying to protect their eyes. There's only one wrong way to attack the eyes, and that's passively. Nothing in real violence is passive. If you attack somebody's eyes passively, two things are probably going to happen. Number one, you're probably just going to make them mad. But number two is you're probably not going to get a second chance. So we need to be aggressive. But once we understand that we need to be aggressive, then there's no wrong way to attack the eyes. But I'm going to show you some good ways. Now, let me start by saying that I only recommend that you attack the eyes if there's an imminent threat of death, great bodily harm, or sexual assault to an innocent person. If it's not that level of threat, I do not recommend you escalate to these levels of force. If it is that level of threat, though, I recommend you make attacking the eyes your priority. Now, ideally, you can use an object to attack the eyes. But if you don't have an object to attack the eyes, then you can use your digits. And a couple good, very simple ways of doing this: with your fingers, clawing up your hand like you're grabbing a big old piece of fruit, and that gives you five opportunities to attack either one of two targets, hopefully both. And your mental image is to drive these digits so deep into their sockets that you can tickle the back of their skull through their eyeballs. No, that's not going to happen, but it won't be for lack of trying. The other option you have is to take the tip of your thumb and to drive it directly to the back of their skull. Tip of the thumb directly to the back of the skull. The goal is to get your digits as deep as possible to give you that best chance of that rapid shift in focus where they stop trying to hurt you and they start trying to protect themselves, which creates the window of opportunity for you to protect your safety. Now, a couple different things to keep in mind here. First of all, remember that we're talking about you being the innocent victim of an imminent threat. And you have the right to protect yourself. Nobody has the right to hurt you, and you are worth protecting. And we have to have that moral conviction to do whatever it takes to protect that innocent life, whether it's your innocent life or another person's innocent life. There is no higher moral good than the defense of innocent life. So if we need to take these steps to protect that innocent life, whether it's you or somebody else, we have to have the moral conviction to do that. Remember, we're not talking about situations that we created. We're just trying to stop people from hurting us. And if that level of force is necessary to stop them from hurting us, then we have to have the moral conviction to do that. Now, I'm going to give you a couple real life examples just to put into context how these methods tend to work in real situations. I want to mention a situation that I did, one that I witnessed, and one that was shared with me. The one that I did was when I was in a youth home. I was a ward of the state, and I was in youth homes when I was a teenager. And they had us out camping, and we were out in a cabin. So we're sleeping in bunks in a cabin, and we're all in one big cabin. And we had this kid in there who was for real crazy. And by for real crazy, I mean after this event was over, they caught him sneaking a horseshoe into the cabin because he was going to try to kill me with it when I was sleeping. They shipped him off to a mental institution. I never did see him again after that. So he was for real crazy. And because he was crazy, kids used to pick on him. And I don't condone that. I'm just being honest about what happened. And one day he figures out, hey, I'm bigger than everybody else because he was much bigger than us. And he just started randomly selecting people and beating them up. And I knew that I was on the menu, and I wasn't looking forward to it because up until me, he had a perfect record, and he was a lot bigger than I was, than all of us were. And as I'm in this cabin now, I'm sleeping in this top bunk, and what he's doing is he's getting out of his bunk, he's hitting me, running back to his bunk and hiding underneath the covers, hoping I won't know who it is. You remember the crazy part, right? So as I'm sleeping, I feel that, I'm getting hit. So I'm savvy. I don't want to start looking around because I want to know who it is. I want to catch him in the act. So I lay there like I'm still sleeping. He jumps up. He hits me again. Now I know who it is. I jump down and I square up with him. Well, he does this round kick right to my upper arm. And I don't know how he did it because I'm sure he never had a day of training in his life. And he wasn't really built for that kind of a kick, if you know what I mean. And I've been training for years and I still can't kick like that. But he did it. And I remember it felt just like a feather. And this is before I've ever had any training, but I've had a lot of experience at this point. And I just balled up my fist and I hit him, pow, as hard as I could. And when I hit him, I set him, I put him on the bunk behind him and I jumped on top of him and I started to hit him as hard and as fast as I could. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is going pretty good. Because remember, up until me, he had a perfect record and he was a lot bigger than I was. But at some point, he decides he doesn't want to get hit anymore. He rolls over. He's bigger than I am, so I roll over too. And now I'm on the ground, and I'm hitting up, and he's the one hitting down. And I remember distinctly thinking to myself, wow, this isn't going so good. And this was right before I joined my very first martial arts program back in 1987, back at Finney High School in Detroit, Michigan, when Detroit was the murder capital of the world, and Denby and Finney were the two schools that were always in the news. And in preparation for my, starting a martial arts program, I was reading a lot of martial arts magazines, and I had read an article on eye gouging. And I figured, well, now's a good time to try it out, right? Because things aren't going so good. So I take my thumb, and as hard as I can, I drive it into his eye. And remember, he clenched up his eye, and I couldn't get my thumb as deep as I wanted to. Now, what I didn't know then, but I know now, is that I was pressing up against his nose. I didn't take the tip of my thumb directly to the back of his skull. Had I taken the tip of my thumb directly to the back of his skull, I would have completely penetrated my thumb into his socket. So God forbid you ever have to do this. Don't make the mistake that I made. Take the tip of the thumb and drive it directly to the back of the skull. But even though I didn't get the depth of penetration that I wanted, I still got him right back on his back again. I got right on top of him. I started hitting him as hard and as fast as I could until the lights came on and the staff broke it up. And to give you an idea what this situation was like, when the lights came on, there was so much blood on this kid's face that you couldn't tell what color his skin was. And the only reason why I bring that up is because the punching him part was not stopping him. But the thumb in the eye, that got immediate control. The one that I witnessed, but not what I did. And this is all young and dumb stuff. I don't condone any of this. This is us being, we were in our teens and we were dumb kids that got into a lot of trouble. But we were walking through the mall. A buddy of mine was walking through the mall. And he didn't look like a tough kid, but he was a tough kid. I never saw him lose a fight. Probably one of the toughest kids I ever knew. And as he's walking through a mall, this other kid, I say kid, but, we were teenagers. That's a kid to me now. And he was heckling my buddy. And my buddy was savvy. He didn't want to look around and let the kid know something was coming, right? So he waited until they walked by a store window where he could catch his reflection in the window. As soon as he knew where he was, he leaped up, he turned around, and he drove his thumb in the guy's eye. He did it much better than I did. Sent this guy all the way backwards onto his back, smacked his head into the ground. I don't know how the guy didn't lose consciousness. And then he was just standing over him with his thumb buried in his eye, and that was it. Problem solved. And so, again, I'm not condoning that. I'm just giving you a real-life example that as soon as his thumb was in this guy's eye, he had immediate control. The third example is one that was shared with me by a trooper from Kentucky. And I was in a combat point shooting instructor program at Hawking College. in Nelsonville, Ohio, through their police science and their technology, their division. And when I was a student in that program, becoming an instructor in combat point shooting methods, there was a state trooper in there from Kentucky, and he shared with me this example. And he was trying to arrest somebody. They're on the side of the road. They were getting into a physical tussle, and he was on top of the guy trying to restrain him and get him in the cuffs. And the guy's brother came up and started to grab the trooper's gun and pull it out of the holster. They had a retention device, but he was working it out of the holster. Now, for those of you who don't know, let me put this into context for you. 80% of the time that an officer has his gun taken away from him, he is shot with that gun. And of course, shooting somebody with a gun, that's deadly force. This trooper's life is in danger. So he had, this was back in the day when they had the bigger flashlights, and he hit this individual, the suspect that he was trying to restrain, in the head, and hit him hard enough to bounce his head off of the ground. Remember, this is now a life and death fight. This trooper is authorized in using lethal force. This guy's head bounces off to the ground, didn't even faze him. And this brother is almost getting this gun out of this trooper's holster. He's barely holding on to it as he's restraining this guy. If he loses control, they're going to kill him. So he takes his thumb and he buries it in the suspect's eye. And he says, "Tell your brother to get off of me or I'm going to pull it out." Right away, the suspect calls out, "Get off of him." And he was able to take that individual in custody, and there was no further need for force after that. But what you see in all three examples, and this is not a guarantee, nothing's guaranteed. These are only examples. But these are examples of how as soon as there was a digit in somebody's eye, there was immediate control. An immediate shift in focus from what that person was trying to do to trying to protect their eyes. Now let me give you an example where this might come into play. And that's if somebody's trying to choke you. Now, I can't speak for other areas, but in Michigan, a choke is lethal force. And this is a really important thing to understand, because the number one thing that we have to protect in a violent situation is consciousness. Because without consciousness, you cannot resist. And that means a couple of things. It means blunt force trauma to the brain. It means keeping these arteries intact. Because if they open up the arteries, you're going to lose blood pressure to the brain, you're going to lose consciousness, you're going to bleed out, you're going to die. But it also means keeping your airway open. Because if they press on your throat hard enough for long enough, you can lose consciousness at any moment without warning. So if somebody's choking you, and by the way, this is not the best way to choke somebody, but it is a way that people are commonly choked when they're being assaulted. And if somebody's choking you like that, you can either with an object or with your digits drive into their eyes as forcefully as you can. And the most likely result of that is going to be to them stop trying to choke you and start trying to protect their eyes. And that is not only a very simple thing that you can do, but it has the best chance of getting that pressure off of your throat as quickly as possible. And that then creates a window of opportunity for you to solve that problem so that you can stop that threat, get away from that threat, protect your safety. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Ian Kinder with Live Safe Academy. You can visit our website, livesafeacademy.com. We have a lot of free resources there, just as a public service to enhance people's safety. You can also see information about our in-person classes and our live virtual classes that you can take from anywhere in the world for all ages, from very young kids to senior citizens, for adults, men, women, law enforcement, corrections, private security. We're there to help you in any way that we can. Always feel free to contact us with questions. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found the information helpful, and stay safe and have a great day.